In the ancient wisdom of Hermeticism, Saturn was revered as the gate of chaos. This chaos wasn't the disorder one might instinctively imagine, but rather the profound state that existed before creation, the primordial, undifferentiated vastness. Saturn, standing as a sentinel at the cosmos' edge, delineated the boundary between the known and the mysterious beyond. But the late 18th century marked a cosmic milestone. In 1781, the discovery of Uranus challenged Saturn's status, symbolically opening this gate of chaos. What flooded in was emblematic of Uranus itself, a tidal wave of societal upheaval and transformation. The 1700s, under Uranus's watchful gaze, became an epoch of revolutionary fervor where Enlightenment ideals took root and technological marvels began reshaping civilization. Philosophers like Voltaire questioned the old, championing reason as science. Societies were stirred by the American and French revolutions, both testament to a yearning for freedom and equality. Then, in 1846, Neptune emerged, pushing the cosmic boundary even further. If Uranus had swung open the gate, Neptune invited humanity into the mysteries that lay beyond. The 19th century, imbued with Neptunian essence, became a period where dreams, mysticism, and the intangible were explored with vigor. The arts ventured into the abstract and surreal, and societal movements sought to dissolve the chains of oppression. Significant moments from this era capture this Neptunian spirit: the rise of photography, freezing ethereal moments in time, the dawn of motion pictures, blending reality and dreams, and the surge in spiritualist practices, reflecting a fascination with realms unseen. And as the century drew to a close, figures like Freud and Jung delved deeper, exploring the enigmatic recesses of the human psyche, further resonating with Neptune's allure. These celestial discoveries seemed more than mere coincidence. As Uranus and Neptune came into humanity's view, there was a simultaneous unveiling of the depths of our collective psyche. New pathways in the collective unconscious of mankind were opened up, and more light from the roots of the deep mind became available. As this period demonstrates, as our understanding of the cosmos expands, so too does our understanding of ourselves. Before Galileo, the prevailing belief in the West was that the cosmos were perfect. The earth, the realm of change, decay, and imperfection, was flawed, while the heavens were seen to be unchanging, eternal, and perfect. It wasn't until the work of Galileo and his contemporaries that this notion was challenged. Among the many observations of Galileo, it may have been his observation of blemishes on the sun that truly put him at odds with the Church. These blemishes, known as sunspots, were undeniable, yet the cause and the reason for these so-called blemishes was hotly debated. Today, we understand them as areas in the sun where magnetic fields come to the surface. These fields obstruct the usual energy transfer from the sun's core to its surface. This makes these areas cooler and darker compared to their surroundings, and as a result, sunspots appear as dark spots against the brighter background of the sun. While these could be considered imperfections, it may be more accurate to think of them as changes. To the ancient Chinese, astronomical phenomena were often seen as indicators of the balance between heaven and earth. Disruptions or unusual occurrences in the heavens could be interpreted as signs that this cosmic balance was disturbed. Sunspots were a known phenomenon for the ancient Chinese, with references appearing in records going back as far as 2,000 years ago. Within their cosmological framework, sunspots wouldn't have been viewed merely as isolated phenomena in the sun. Instead, they would have been interpreted in the broader context of their implications for the balance of yin and yang, the state of heaven and earth, and the natural order of the Tao. Sunspots typically correlate with increases in solar disturbances on the sun, manifested in the physical as solar flares or coronal mass ejections, and, barring a few exceptions, these had little impact on human civilization. However, by the mid-20th century, activity from the sun began to directly affect our communications technologies, In the 1950s, shortwave radio was a primary means of long-distance communication and broadcasting, especially across international boundaries. Since the invention of shortwave radio, magnetic disturbances coming from the sun were a known phenomenon that caused significant problems to shortwave radio signals, and the industry needed a reliable forecasting service so that advanced preparations could be made for these periodic disruptions. John H. Nelson, then a radio analyst for RCA, was tasked with finding a reliable forecasting system to accurately predict when these disturbances would occur. Among his observations, he found very strong evidence that the planets, when in certain predictable arrangements, correspond precisely to radio blackouts on Earth. He observed that magnetic activity on the Sun was greatly increased when two planets were at either a conjunction or 0-degree angle, a square or 90-degree, or an opposition, a 180-degree angle. However, when the planets were at 120 degrees or a trine, or 60 degrees or a sextile, disturbances were noticeably quiet. Nelson eventually found that he could predict the disturbances on the Sun with better than 90% accuracy. What he found was that magnetic disturbances from the Sun correlated with planetary alignments. This enabled him to develop a system that accurately predicted when magnetic disturbances would occur. In astrology, when two planets are in conjunction, or 0 degrees, they align within the same zodiac sign. While conjunctions can manifest as harmonious or challenging, much depends on the nature of the planets involved. For example, the union of Venus, the planet symbolizing love and aesthetics, with Jupiter, representing expansion and fortune, is typically viewed favorably. However, a conjunction of Mars, for example, associated with assertiveness, and Saturn, the embodiment of limitations, might bring about more testing. A square, or 90-degree angle, arises when two planets position themselves roughly 90 degrees apart. This aspect is often seen as tense or challenging, suggesting potential inner or outer conflicts. The interplay between the planets' energies can lead to friction or tension. However, this very tension can also act as a spur for personal growth, compelling individuals to confront and navigate these challenges. When two planets form an opposition, or 180-degree angle, they sit about 180 degrees apart from each other. This aspect can present its own set of challenges, reminiscent of a push-pull dynamic or the need for balance between the planets' energies. Such positions might emphasize areas in life where one feels torn between opposing forces or necessitates finding middle ground. In Nelson's book, Cosmic Patterns, he observes that the Sun and planets seem to behave similar to an electric generator, with the planets acting like carefully placed magnets. He writes, "If we consider that the planets are magnets and the Sun an armature or electric dynamo, we have a considerable similarity to a generator." In this quote, Nelson is suggesting that the Sun's activity, like sunspots, solar flares, and other electromagnetic phenomenon, might be modulated or influenced by the magnetic or gravitational effects of the planets. Nelson's work primarily revolved around how planetary positions seem to correlate with radio blackouts, which are caused by increased solar disturbances. While Nelson pursued a rigorous scientific approach, there were parallel voices coming from a more spiritual plane, which suggested an additional insight into what causes this increased activity from the Sun. The renowned clairvoyant Edgar Cayce was known as the Sleeping Prophet due to his ability to enter a sleep-like state and provide readings on various topics. In one session, Cayce delved into the phenomenon of solar activity, suggesting that humanity itself has the power to influence the Sun's behavior. He writes, "How do sunspots impact us? Just as a harsh word or feeling of anger, jealousy, hatred, and animosity touch you as a divine being, these feelings create disturbances on Earth, akin to the disruptions sunspots cause. They interrupt various forms of human communication. So, what exactly are these sunspots? They might be the cosmic echoes of the emotional turbulence humans experience here on Earth, reflecting back on the Sun, causing disarray for those who perceive them. Remember, our mind shapes our reality. Casey's perspective suggests that the sun reflects our emotional turbulence experienced on Earth. If this is true, it underscores the profound responsibility and power each individual holds. This leads to an intriguing question. Why would our emotions or actions, positive or negative, reverberate on such a grand scale? One interpretation might be that, like in our own individual lives, the universe is a mirror. What you think about influences what happens to you in life. If this is so for us on an individual level, why wouldn't this be true for us as a collective planet? In moments of global discord or intense emotion, the universe might respond with increased solar flare activity, symbolizing the turbulence of human experience. When we are in harmony, life tends to be more harmonious. When we are not, then life is more chaotic, difficult, and experience is more harsh. There are other factors involved, of course, but this illustrates the power that our consciousness has in attracting experience. In the macrocosm, when we, collectively, are more harmonious, then the cosmos might reflect this harmony. The Logos, as the architect of the solar system, designed the archetypal framework we use to experience. Thus, we are connected to the Logos at a fundamental level of mind. True inspiration originates from our innermost depths, from the Logos. While external events or sensations might stimulate it, the spark always arises from within, for everything emerges from our inner self. The consciousness of the Logos flows beneath our individual minds, forging a connection between us, the Logos, and one another. In this symbiotic relationship, we offer our experiences to the Logos, and in turn, the Logos imparts its wisdom to us. In a channeling session held by the High Altitude Receiving Group, a Law of One oriented channeling circle, an entity named Manka suggested that solar flare activity can be seen as a type of hormone release. They state, think perhaps of an issue of energy from the Logos as a hormone released, a catalyst, if you will, on the grand scale. It is interesting that they use the metaphor of a hormone released. A hormone is not released unless it is responding to something. For example, melatonin is released when the stimulus of darkness is sensed. Puberty hormones are released when the body reaches a certain age. Using this perspective, it seems that the sun could be seen as a type of cosmic barometer, reflecting humanity's collective emotional and spiritual state. Energy from the sun, metaphysically speaking, could also be seen as a type of healing energy. In a channeling session conducted in 1982 by the LL Research Group, a question is asked to an entity called Latwi about what the purpose of solar flares are. They give some interesting insight and suggest that there are more than one reason for their existence. Just as the surface of your planet has begun to react strongly to the resistance of those upon its surface to orderly change in thought and deed, so also does the remainder of the universe react to rectify the situation, just as a vacuum would soon be filled were it to exist anywhere in the universe. The alteration of your planet's vibration is also accompanied by a strong desire emanating from the hearts of your people to have the disease that your people call war or aggression to be corrected in whatever manner possible. In this case, the universe, within the limitations of the sublogos, is providing conditions which are less than favorable for the continuation of your race's aggressive tendencies. A question is then asked, so when aggression is the highest, then activity, that inpouring of energy that comes to us as solar flares, will increase? Latwi responds, that is not necessarily the case, in that the specific form of the inpouring of energy may not always be the one to which you refer. However, we may confidently say that as the aggressive activity increases, so also will the number of aids provided by the universe to assist your race in reducing these same aggressive tendencies. In the book Earth, Pleiadian Keys to the Living Library, Barbara Martinik, channeling the Pleiadians, also echoes Latvi's statement. She writes, The sun reads its creations, and in turn feeds the creations what they need. So when you carry the love of yourselves and the earth, the solar rays completely understand the consciousness you carry. When you carry fear of earth, the solar rays understand and they nudge you into those experiences. Perhaps the ancient Chinese may have been correct in their thinking that we influence the stars as much as they influence us. With this in mind, we should return to a more holistic view of the universe, one where nature is not seen simply as lifeless mechanical parts mindlessly working for no reason, but instead as a unified whole, imbued with an intelligence we do not yet grasp. Modern science has made tremendous strides in understanding the mechanics of the universe. Reintegrating this holistic perspective doesn't mean dismissing scientific findings. Instead, it's about marrying the empirical with the intuitive, the mechanical with the symbolic. By recognizing that the universe might be imbued with a form of intelligence or consciousness, and that this consciousness responds to us, we open ourselves to a richer understanding of existence. We've discussed some of the possible reasons for why human activity can influence the cosmos. It can be easy to see yourself as powerless when all around us are signs of chaos, destruction, war, and fear. We can't control what others are doing or thinking, and this is not something we should be striving to achieve. So, what can we do as individuals to help maintain harmony? In Taoism, there is a concept known as central harmony. It's said that this harmony is maintained through reciprocal communication among humans. According to the esoteric author Richard Levington, a major responsibility of humanity is to protect, circulate, and cultivate the intelligent energy or ki of central harmony between yang or heaven, which births the world, and yin or earth, which nurtures it. He writes, "Ki, wielded by humans, is a unique and vital medium to achieve and circulate harmonious communication between heaven and earth. When this happens, dynamic balance and spontaneous growth of nature occur. When it doesn't, heaven and earth are sick and express this as anger, fury, pain, and calamities. If the garden is sick, no fruit can grow. Thus, it requires healing in order to produce fruit. This brings to mind the concept of harvest, talked about in the Law of One material, the idea that, at the end of a cycle, the fruit of third density is harvested. It is mentioned repeatedly in the channelings that one of the chief goals of this particular time period is to maximize the harvest. All around us, it appears that there is a concerted effort to minimize self-awareness, to promote fear, illusions, delusions, and the maximization of base desires. It sometimes feels as if darkness on this planet is intensifying. However, what is actually happening is that the light is being intensified. Like a lamp moving closer to an object, as the light moves closer, the shadow becomes more defined. This contrast is giving us opportunities to either succumb to fear or to heal and awaken to our higher natures. It's giving us the opportunity to heal our shadow. Humanity is unique in the universe, and our role is important in this great cosmic saga. Being embodied allows us to ground the energy of the divine into physical reality, a task that is difficult enough, but made even more so by the conditions we find ourselves in here in third density. What does it mean to ground energy? Think of a lightning rod and its purpose. A lightning rod grounds the electrical discharge from a lightning strike. It provides a direct, low-resistance path for the electrical energy to travel, leading it safely into the ground. As the Earth is being bombarded by healing energy coming from the cosmos, it's important for humans to resume their role as grounding points for this energy. Not only does this assist us, but it also assists the Earth, preventing the need for releases of this energy, which manifests as earthquakes and other related phenomena. This act of grounding and distributing energy into the Earth is typically work done by landscape angels or devas, according to author Richard Levington. There are key points along the Earth where energy can be distributed, and the role of devas is to help facilitate this energy. Not having physical bodies, however, requires them to find a stable point within their innermost depths, according to spiritualist Jeffrey Hudson. He writes that devas, lacking the anchorage of a body, need to find a stable platform within themselves in order to be an effective grounding point for this energy. He writes, "As your body serves your mind for leverage, lacking flesh, they, or the angels, have to find the fulcrum deep within." This fascinating passage hints at a few concepts. First, that being embodied entails some sort of advantage in being able to more easily ground energy. The mind utilizes the body as a means to interact with the world in a more direct manner. Second, that without a body, one must search for a grounding point deep within, which seems to require a high degree of discipline and focus. If you are higher energy without the lower part, i.e. the body, then there is an inherent gulf between worlds which is not easily crossed. Humans have a dual nature. On the one hand, we are physical beings, beholden to the laws of physicality. This is the lower world, the world of form. We also have a part of us that is in the real world, or the world of spirit. In the physical, we are beholden to time, to lower vibrations. Perhaps it may be easier to think of it like a difference between the world of form and the world of idea. The form is the manifestation of the idea, but the idea, being formless, can take many forms. Thus, ideas will always be superior to form. Everything has a corresponding idea behind it, an idea that could have manifested itself in any number of ways. When it is formed, though, it is concrete. It is less abstract and more definite. It is more grounded. Ideas form the scaffolding which surrounds all things in the physical, and this template reality is the basis of fourth density, a density where reality becomes much more malleable, less definite, and more options are open. Things there are less formed and less rigid, so to speak. So humans are not totally form and are not totally formless. We are both, form and formlessness. Thus, we have the potential to act as a bridge for the formless to manifest into form. To act as a bridge is the great work spoken about by the alchemist, and the closer one gets to the divine, the more work they can do, and the more seeds they can plant. How this work manifests is completely subjective and totally individualized. The energy of the divine comes through you and out into this world by the fruits of your work. This work isn't necessarily tied to something in the physical world. It could simply be the action of being and allowing energy to move through you, acting as a broadcast station for energy. The work to get there happens through contemplation and meditation. To heal the self, to clear the rocks and thorns which block the heart, opens the possibility for others to do the same. Eventually, one by one, we can fully integrate the divine back onto this planet. Kabbalah is a form of Jewish mysticism aimed at understanding the nature of God and the universe. It offers a framework for comprehending the relationships between the divine, the cosmos, and humanity through a system of 10 spheres, or sephiroth, and 22 paths that represent different aspects and levels of consciousness and reality. The system is visually represented by the Tree of Life, which serves as a map illustrating how the Infinite One interacts with the finite world. Its emanations are called sephiroth, which are attributes or aspects of the Infinite One. The Tree of Life isn't necessarily traversed linearly. Instead, practitioners meditate on the various interconnected paths, and each path serves as a channel through which energy flows between the different sephiroth. Holistically, the Tree of Life can be viewed as the process through which the Infinite One differentiates itself into physical reality, metaphorically representing the transition from 0 to 1. The last sephiroth, known as Malkuth, represents the physical world, or the realm of matter. In the book The Mystical Kabbalah, the author and mystic Diane Fortune writes this about Malkuth. It is the formative, concreting function of Malkuth, which finally renders tangible and definite what was, upon the higher planes, intangible and indefinite, and this is its great service to manifestation and its characteristic power. In Malkuth, things are more literal and less abstract. The form has a definite shape, whereas in the higher realms, the form is much more abstract than absolute. Malkuth is the grounding point of the divine's will, where the idea finally manifests. Diane Fortune also writes this about Malkuth. The whole problem of Malkuth is a problem of channels and connecting links. The rest of the work is done by the minds on the subtler planes. The real difficulty lies in the transition from the subtle to the dense, for the subtle is so ill-equipped to work on the dense. This transition is effected by means of the magnetism of living things, whether organic or inorganic. The physical, being a dense realm, can be difficult to break through without the appropriate channels and magnetism of beings and objects existing in this realm. Without the appropriate channels, the higher spiritual realms remain separated, existing together but with a wide gulf between them. Only through the mediation of spirit can it be possible to merge the two realms. Thus the human being, endowed with spirit, acts as this mediator between heaven and earth. In nature, the connection between the two worlds is well established. In man, this is not so. Mankind has the ability to direct the will to affect the natural world in ways other species cannot. Thus, mankind can act as co-creator to the Logos. To be a co-creator is to be one who has maximum free will. As Quo said, "Your own nature is water, in that you, as mind-body-spirit complexes, are easily impressed and moved. Indeed, this is the very fiber and nature of your journey, individual in this density, to not only be moved, but to instruct yourself as to the preferred manner of your movement in mind, body, and spirit." In the mystical Kabbalah, Diane Fortune writes about a man she knew who described God as pressure. Yet pressure is merely one facet of the divine. Impulse represents another essential aspect. In physics, impulse considers force applied over time, while pressure considers force applied over an area. Force, in this context, can be seen as synonymous with will. Astrologically, planets might be envisioned as conveyors of this divine impulse, will, subtly directing the archetypal energies that influence human behavior and experiences. They act as dynamic transmitters of the divine will, exerting a guiding influence over the archetypal mind shared by humanity. Our task lies in learning how to move in harmony with the natural and divine order, allowing our true will, the will of the Logos, to move us.